t-shirts for my husband. So let's give everybody a couple minutes just to tune in. If you want to find out more about stretchy knit fabrics, what patterns I use, all that kind of stuff, definitely stay tuned. I am coming to you from my home studio here in North Central Florida. Go ahead and leave me a message in the chat box below, whether you're watching us on Facebook or on YouTube, and let me know where you are tuning in from. I'm just going to double check, make sure some things are working here. And if you can see me and hear me, definitely let me know. All right, so the audio seems to be, let's see here. All right, awesome. So the audio sounds good to me. All right, welcome everybody. We are working on clothes today, and I will give a quick recap of last week's WIP Wednesday. We were making these headbands. I was making this one for my daughter live on camera. I have a free video tutorial for this headband on my YouTube channel, so you can find that. Just go to the Crafty Gemini YouTube channel, or you can just do a search. Type in the words Crafty Gemini headband in YouTube and it'll pop right up for you. So we were talking last week and we were experimenting a little bit with different measurements of the stretch fabrics. So if you recall, I used a scrap I had of this cotton spandex, this Robert Kaufman Blake fabric. This was designed by my friend Carolyn Friedlander, and this is in the cotton spandex substrate. I cut the length for this one for a kid at 16 inches long by 5 inches tall. And I tried it on my daughter and she says it's just snug enough. Like a little bit tighter than this won't work. So I was right in my guesstimate last week to say that I would cut it 16 inches long this way for a child ages 5 to 8. My daughter's just turned 9. So it's a little bit tight on her and she does have a lot of hair. But if you're looking to make one for a younger child, I would go 16 inches. The adult ones I cut at 20 inches. And this one I made just today out of double brush polyester spandex. I cut it 5 inches by 20 inches and I whipped it up on my serger. So if you tuned in last week, I said I was going to do a video tutorial on how to make these on the serger. And I am. I'm going to go film that probably today or tomorrow. So it should be up on my YouTube channel soon because I have everything set up and the pieces cut out and my tips to share and all that stuff. So you don't have to have a serger, but I know last week a lot of you were asking about making these headbands on a serger. So I just kind of wanted to touch base on that. If you are new here, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern, tune in either to the Crafty Gemini Facebook page or to the Crafty Gemini YouTube channel, and you will find me live for WIP Wednesday. WIP, W-I-P, stands for work in progress. So this is kind of a laid-back live event where I chit-chat and walk through, sometimes do a demo and chat about what it is that I'm currently working on. So it's an opportunity for me to meet up with you all live, but also get some work done on projects that I need to tackle. So everything looks good, huh? Okay, great. So let me just pop in here to the live chat. Okay. Oh, Amanda says she made a bunch of the headbands. Hi, Cindy, tuning in from France. Awesome. All right, Joanna's watching us on YouTube. Some of you could be watching us on the Facebook page as well. So either or, we've recently started going live on both platforms. So whichever one is, more friendly for you. I know not everybody has Facebook, so that works good. Oh, I have a lot of my Florida neighbors here. Hi, Carla, tuning in from Fort Lauderdale. We have Vernia tuning in from Wildwood. That's not too far from here. And, excuse me, Bobby tuning in from South Florida. Awesome. Hi, Sharon from Massachusetts. Awesome, awesome. Okay. Oh, excuse me, and my husband put my tea all the way back here. Let me grab a sip real quick. Let me see if I don't flip it right here and have an epic fail live on camera. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what is going on today. So I am working on some long sleeve t-shirts for my husband. Some of you that have been following us for a while or have signed up for some of our t-shirt classes probably recognize this fabric. This is another Robert Kaufman Blake fabric by Carolyn Friedlander in the cotton spandex, and it's like a hash print. I forget what it's called, but I call it black hash when we list it on the website. We're sold out of this fabric right now, so I had to kind of piece together a couple different scrap pieces to make my husband this shirt. But you can see it's a simple t-shirt with a crew neckline. Okay, crew neckband, super simple. And I whipped this one up earlier today just on the serger. So if we switch to the overhead shot here, I'll just show briefly. So you all can see that I used a serger. Okay, and the entire thing was constructed on a serger. So that was easy for me, but you don't have to have a serger to make these. This I did on the cover stitch is what I used to hem it. So you can see that I cover stitched that. All right, so, and I'll show you here too. I was like, did I hem the sleeves? I did. I went ahead and used my cover stitch. So I used a serger and a cover stitch to whip this up because those are machines obviously that I have that I can use and that allow me to whip up the t-shirt super, super quickly. And I'll show you on the side seam here what the serger does. If you've ever worn a t-shirt, probably all of us have, you have seen how the inside of your shirt kind of has that finish. Okay, and some of you that only have sewing machines wonder sometimes like what machine or what stitch they're using to create that. That is this, what I used here is a 3-thread serger overlock stitch. Okay, some people will use 4. This is not getting stretched on him. I made it a little bit bigger so it's a little bit roomier, so I know it's not going to be stretched. Otherwise, I may have opted to use a 4-thread, but a 3-thread works quick. I also was using 3-thread because I was working on those headbands, okay? So this is a cotton spandex. Now this, for him, he considers it heavyweight. We all know that this is a good weight to make leggings, shorts, t-shirts, but it is more to the medium, higher medium weight than some other lightweight knits. So for us, and my husband requested some long sleeve shirts for 2 reasons. One, he does most of his farm chores at dusk and dawn. Mosquitoes are kicking right now here in Florida. And then also the weather's starting to cool off. So no more tank tops and t-shirts for him. He wanted some long sleeve shirts. So the next one I'm going to tackle here is going to be this super, super see-through lightweight knit. Just a little something. I think he's going to like this. I don't know that it's going to offer much protection, but he likes really lightweight stuff. Okay, so here's the pattern that we're using. This is Jali 2918. All right, so this pattern, we currently have it in stock in the shop. You can see if we have a look at the different views that we have a t-shirt, like a short sleeve t-shirt length. We also have long sleeve. Then there's like this short sleeve, long sleeve combo thing. I haven't tried that yet. And then it has 2 different neckline views. You can do the crew neck, basic, that's the one that I'm doing here. And then it also has a V-neck option. I haven't tried this yet on this pattern. My son likes to make this t-shirt for himself, so he has made them before. It's a real simple pattern. We carry it in stock in our online shop right now, and that's the one that I'm going to be making. Just to show you how many pieces we have. And Jali is like the girls, it's a mother-daughter duo in Canada that is, oh, this is my headband. I almost threw it away thinking it was a scrap. That's what happens when you work with super, super lightweight fabrics. I'll save that. But if we have a look here, you can see that the back, and I have it all labeled, of course, when you trace off your pattern pieces, make sure you write all the info that you copy it over from the pattern template piece. So this is the back of the shirt, and you can see that it's in 2 pieces, and they kind of connect here with like this little puzzle piece thing, which I love. Because what they do at Jali when they draft the patterns, she says, okay, this is the bottom half. This bottom half piece, I only need to trace and cut out 1 pattern template piece because it's the same bottom whether you're cutting out the top or the front or the back, and I'll show you. So if this is my back piece, this is the bottom to it, okay? And then when I go to cut out the front piece of the t-shirt, I remove the top, and the difference here is going to be the neckline, right? So this is the back of the shirt, it's higher up, and then I just grab the piece that says front. And you can see it's more of a scoop because it's the crew neckline here. And then that's the front. And I keep the same pattern piece because from here down, it's the same on the front and back, which I love. It's genius. It's a great way to save time, save pattern tracing paper, okay? And then let me see here. The other piece that we have is the sleeve. And of course, I cut out the long sleeve. Remember, this also comes with a short sleeve. And then the neckband piece. That's it. Okay, so we have a front and a back, sleeves, and the neckband. Super easy. Super quick and easy to make and to crank out assembly line style. So this is definitely a favorite of ours. My son has made these in the past. You all have probably seen the picture. If you caught the email and you're on my newsletter list, you probably saw the pictures of my son wearing his that he made a couple years ago. Let me take another sip here, and you can switch to the other camera angle. Brandon, let's show them the front, the other camera angle. All right, so here's the fabric I'm going to be using. Look, it's so see-through, but it's going to be super lightweight. Now, this is some fabric that I have in my stash. I'm thinking of stocking it in the shop because there are a lot of like light and breezy patterns that I want to whip up with this for future classes, so we'll see what I end up doing. But I'm glad that this color will also work for him. It's kind of like, if you switch to the other shop, maybe I can show these close-ups of the, it's like, what would I call it? Like, ooh, what's the word? Heathered. It's like heathered with like black heathered lines inside the teal color. Super cool and super breezy, as you can tell. Now, As breezy as this is, when we look at fabric like this, most of the time, if you're like me and you live in a hot climate, you're like, oh my gosh, that looks like it would be amazing to wear. And light, breezy, drapey, and amazing to wear also translates to a mission to sew because it is so light, drapey, and airy. So we're kind of going to be working on an experiment here today with y'all live on camera. Let's go ahead and switch to the other shot. So I have my Juki LB5020. This is a beginner-friendly sewing machine, okay? I've set it up with my polyester thread, which is what I prefer to use when I am working with stretch knit fabrics and then also garments. Polyester obviously is a synthetic, it's man-made, and it is going to be stronger because of that than a natural fiber like a cotton, okay? And when we make clothes here, we wear them out. So I definitely want them to last long, okay? So I have my high quality polyester thread here, same thread in the bobbin. I went ahead and put in a ballpoint jersey needle right before we went live. I could not find my size 70-10 ballpoint jerseys, y'all, so I put in an 80-12, which is the next size up. The reason I would probably put a 70-10 in here, still ballpoint jersey, is because the fabric is so lightweight, I want to go down in size. I couldn't find it. That's the problem with doing everything kind of at the last minute like I tend to roll. So 80-12 is going to be it, and we shall see if it's going to work out or not. And we have an annoying fly in here that's driving me nuts. Okay, so my pieces. Look at this. This fabric, like, it turns into nothing, okay? Let me just double check that I'm not missing any questions that I can answer now. Oh, great. Carla's asking, do you set the sleeves in the flat or the round? The flat, for sure. Especially on, like, simple knit garments like this. You'll see. I can probably get to that point in this live. I won't be able to complete the whole shirt here, but I will get through to that point. So great question. And that just means, are we installing the sleeve with the front and back of the shirts flat, which is a lot easier to do, or are we installing the sleeve after we've already sewn down the sides here, meaning you're attaching the sewn up round of the sleeve into the arm side, which can be a little bit trickier if you're a beginner, but usually when you're working with stretch knit fabrics, that's kind of easy to do too because you have that built-in stretch in the fabric. But for me, for most knit garments and simple stuff like this, I just put them in flat, especially if I'm doing it on a serger. I'm not going to do this one on the serger because I want to show you all, especially those of you that are beginners, you can sew stretch knit garments just on a basic sewing machine. However, this fabric is light. I'm using a bigger needle, and we will see if I have an epic fail here or not. So come along for the ride with me, okay, as we do this. So real simple steps. And remember, this pattern is the Jali 2918. We do have it in stock in the online shop right now. Now, some of you may have guys that don't want the crew neck style, like the set and sleeve type of style. We do have another, or Jali has another pattern that we carry in the shop called the Jali Nico. And I did a 4-part free video series step-by-step walking you through that pattern, which is another great beginner-friendly project to tackle, again using stretch knits, but instead of having set-in sleeves, you know, it has that raglan, like that baseball type of t-shirt that I've seen it called that. Let me grab these pieces and find the front and back. And then it's so lightweight. Let me see. Yeah, I can tell the front, the right side, pretty side, and the ugly side of the fabric. Okay, so I'm layering them up, front and back, one on top of the other with pretty sides touching. And let's go ahead and shoot for the other angle so I can show them where I'm matching up the sleeves here, or the shoulder seams, I should say. So front, this is the front because it's a lower neckline, okay? And I am placing the back on top of it, pretty sides touching. Ooh, y'all, look at my fingers. This fabric is so light. Light fabric means your machine, depending on the make and model and whether or not you have a walking foot on there, it might eat the fabric. So we're going to find out what the Juki LB5020 is about to do with this super duper lightweight fabric. So I'm just pinning along here. This is the shoulder seam. Let me match up the other one. Oh, good. It matches perfect. And I tend to be kind of rough with my fabric. So the lighter weight fabrics, and you can see this, I mean, this is like a tissue knit, okay? I will try to only use like these 3 fingers from each hand because if I grab it, I'll stretch, distort, and everything. I'm kind of heavy-handed like that. So if you are starting off with stretch knits, I would highly recommend that you grab yourself some like cotton spandex, some good quality cotton spandex fabric like this stuff to work with. You see how it has more body, plenty of stretch in both directions. And I should mention that this specific pattern calls for at least, you know, when you're picking the fabric that you're using, at least a 40% stretch across both grain lines. So crosswise, going this way across the body, and then vertically as well. This one is kind of like 35% in the vertical stretch, but then it has like 75% on the horizontal. And because I chose a size that's a little bit bigger than my husband's true size, he'll have plenty of room. So it won't be a big deal that I'm like a little bit short of the vertical stretch. That's all right. All right, so that one shoulder is pinned. And then we'll come over here and pin the next shoulder. And let me know if there's any questions that I can't see while I'm working on this that I'm doing right now. I'll check in with y'all in a second, but let me pin this. And I'm using my ballpoint pins, which I think maybe we're out of stock of them in the online shop. But when I work with stretch knits, I like to use these ballpoint pins. If you were in our Helene cardigan class and you ordered one of the kits, then you have the ballpoint pins already. So definitely keep those. I usually will put them on a separate like magnetic pin cushion so that I can use them, you know, and I know which one. Hey, on the red one, I have all my ballpoint pins, and that's what I use, you know, when I'm working with stretch knit garments. All right. So, dun, 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 let's head over to the sewing machine. We're going to keep this same camera shot. You can leave it there. And I am going to stitch this. So here's a couple tips. On lightweight fabric like this, if we put in or we select on the machine a stretch stitch, and let me, you know, I'm like dreading moving this because it's so drapey. I was getting my husband to pick different fabrics, and like he kept picking the drapiest ones. I'm like, you're not going to have me on camera having epic fails with this lightweight fabric. And then I decided, you know what, this one's cute. This will be a great learning opportunity, and we'll see also what this little Juki LB5020 can do. So for stretch knit fabrics, you usually want to go with some type of a zigzag stitch that will allow the fabric to still stretch once it's on the body. However, if it's made out of stretch knit fabrics, but it's like a bigger garment or outerwear, something that's going to be draped over the body that's not like a snug gymnastics leotard or a bathing suit or leggings or something, you can get away with a straight stitch because the seam is not going to have that much stress on it. Okay, so there's no hard and fast rule necessarily. You can work around that. So if you're someone who has maybe just a straight stitch machine, like a vintage machine, you can still sew some stretch knits. Just start off with kind of looser t-shirts or cardigans or something like that. Okay, so now for this, because I know that this fabric is super de-duper light, I am going to make an executive decision here as far as what I choose on the machine to stitch. So we know that the stretch stitch is like a little lightning bolt, and it's a really narrow, small, tight zigzag. I know on any machine that's probably going to eat the fabric because it's so lightweight, okay? So I'm going to instead, let's see, I'm going to do a zigzag. So I'm going to pick my stitch here 07 first. And this is kind of how it works, okay? A lot of people think, well, tell me exactly what I need to do. Every machine is going to be slightly different based on the fabric that you're using and what stitches you have. So let's see what we work out here. And of course, I'm going to do it on a scrap piece first so I don't wreck this. Sometimes when you mess up a stitch or something on a lightweight fabric, then you go in there with the seam ripper. If it's so lightweight, sometimes you can pull on it and make holes in the fabric because it's so lightweight. So you definitely want to practice on a piece of scrap. So I'm going to grab a little scrap piece here. So here's just a little scrap piece. And let's see, so I selected a zigzag, and the default setting on mine is set to a 5mm width, meaning the zig and the zag. Like this space in each zig and zag is 5mm. That's way too wide for what I need. So I'm going to narrow that down and make it, let me see, let me think, maybe like 2mm wide. Let's try that first. And then for the length, it's defaulted to 1.5. That is so small. I guarantee if we stitch it at that, it's going to eat the fabric because the feed dogs are barely going to be pulling any fabric forward, and it's just going to be stitching in place. And with a lightweight fabric, it'll just send it right into the bobbin space here. So these are things that you need to keep in mind, or some of you might even be relating to these like, oh yeah, that's what happened to me when I tried to do that, right? All right, so I'm going to lengthen the stitch length to, let's try 3 and see if it's not too big. So I'm going to do it on my scrap piece here. And I don't want to start right on the end because that I don't have any fabric kind of sticking out here, and that will kind of give you more of an opportunity for it to eat your fabric. So what I'm going to do is what quilters call Starting up with like a leader or an ender, let me just grab a piece of a little bit more stable fabric. In this case, a cotton spandex. So here's a scrap piece of that other t-shirt I made for him. And I am going to just run it through double layered, okay? And visually, okay, it's still a little bit wide. So I'm gonna bring the, let me see, the stitch width. Let's bring it down to 1.5. Okay, that's a little bit less. And then I think I can stand to bring this down to 2.5. So this is like, you know, you get this kind of knowledge with experience and testing it out. And because every fabric is different, look at that. So I fed the lightweight fabric through and it did not even skip a beat. So let's go ahead and swap off to the other camera angle because I want to show them what I did here and see what it looks like. Okay. Oh, the other one. Sorry, we were already on that one. I just wanted to zoom it in for a lightweight or a close up. Okay, so we stitched a little bit on this. I don't know if you can see how the zigzag is. It's kind of a teal colored thread. Okay, so the zigzag was a little bit too wide. We want a zigzag that still plays like a straight stitch. So if it's pinching over too wide in the zigzags, shorten the width so it comes in more straight, closer to a straight stitch, if that makes sense. Then once I was done going through here and the stitches were going fine, I just fed in the more lightweight fabric. And you can see, I mean, if you don't know that I had the setting set to a zigzag, you would think that I used a straight stitch. That's kind of what we want. Still straight or zigzaggy enough that it will allow some stretch. And you can see this fabric doesn't have much stretch this way. But then this way, you can kind of see there how they're actually zigzags. And so this direction would be what's going around the body. So even when it's stretched, you can see that the stitches don't pop. And that's kind of what we're going for. Okay, so now I have my settings on this. And if it's a fabric that you're going to be making a lot of stuff out of, you know, this is a time that you would jot down some notes. Okay, let me go back here to my workspace. Okay, so now I think I have my settings good. So again, I set mine to a regular zigzag and then I adjusted. 1.5 is the stitch width and then 2.5 is the stitch length. And that seems to be good on this machine at least. You'll have to play around on yours because although the settings might be the same, like 2 millimeter, 2.5, they don't really look the same when you stitch them out, okay, on different machines. All right. Monique says, don't forget to get to give the video a thumbs up. Definitely. If you're watching here on Facebook, give this, let's take an opportunity now to share it so that your friends can share it with your crafty friends on Facebook pages. And then if you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. If you're new to my channel, we are live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern and Friday nights at 7. And if you've never tuned in Friday nights before, tune in this week because on Friday we're going to have a flash sale this week and it's a good one. All right, so let's see. Hi, Angie. No worries. Laura's tuning in late too. Welcome, everybody. We are working on a lightweight long sleeve t-shirt for my husband here. All right, so let's go here. Now I'm going to start. And remember, I'm going to grab my little scrap bit again. And you can reuse these little leaders and enders as many times as you want. So I'm going to start stitching on here. All right, and then I'm just stitching where I pinned, so just across both shoulder seams. And I have here set to like a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I believe the seam allowance for this pattern is 1/4 of an inch, and I was not looking at that when I did it. So let me see if, there. Okay, now I'm back on track. Let me make this a little bit narrow. There we go. So you can't go too narrow, again, because if you're working with a lightweight fabric, if there's not enough fabric on the feed dogs are not going to be able to sew anything or grab anything as you sew, all right? So just keep that in mind. So I'm trying to keep this steady. The pins definitely help, especially when we're working with such lightweight fabrics. So let me just match this up. The good thing about stretch fabrics is that you have so much wiggle room. If you're a quilter, you're probably thinking there's no way that I could sew straight while keeping this stuff in check, you know. You have more room than you would on a little tiny patchwork piece because it stretches, okay? So if it's out by a 32nd of an inch or a 16th of an inch, even an 1/8 or a 1/4 of an inch, you'll be fine. And I don't even bother to backstitch at the end because it's a zigzag stitch, and zigzag stitches are a lot more difficult to come out on their own than a straight stitch. Okay, so that's one. Let me go over to the next one, and look how drapey this fabric is. This is one thing, you have to have patience. Look at this. Even with pins on it, it just flops around. You need to have patience and you need to go slow when you're working with this kind of stuff. But now we know, at least on this Juki. I mean, there are machines that cost 5 times what this machine costs that probably wouldn't be able to do this with a regular presser foot on. If your machine does not take to lightweight knits like this easily, consider putting on the walking foot. Okay, because sometimes that gives you a little bit more grip because a walking foot will have feed dogs on the foot itself. So you have the feed dogs working underneath and then you have the feed dogs working on top. So it tends to kind of grab the fabric a little bit better. And look at me. I need to use this first. This fabric is really, really lightweight. All right. Okay, good. No issues there. Make sure I stop with the needle down. And then I'll come here. And so once we're done stitching up this one, we're going to be done then with the 2 shoulder seams. And that is where Carla's question is going to come into play, because I'm going to show you on the table how I lay everything out to then start inserting the sleeves. Yeah, I don't need a back stitch. Let's just go there. Ooh, Laura says she has this pattern already. So now she can't wait to try it, especially with this visual. Awesome. And it sometimes helps just to see it. You know, not all of us do great with just the text instructions, although Jolie's instructions are good too. You know, I do like to do the video on these things because I know that I can share other tips and tricks, and that's why I've been doing a lot of video courses based on their patterns. Oh my gosh, this is so lightweight, but I think you're going to love this, Bee. Look at this. All right, so if we look at that, we already have the seams up here sewn, okay? So now we know that obviously the sleeves are going to get sewn in here. And this is where, Carla, I'm going to insert my sleeves flat. So you open it up, so you're basically looking at the neck hole here. So I know that on either side of that is a sleeve that needs to be inserted. And this pattern does have some notches right there. There's one there and one on the opposite side. Let me grab one of my sleeve pieces. Okay. Again, I have this with the pretty sides of the front and back facing up. So I need to do here, look and see, which is the pretty side. Okay, so this is the pretty side. So we always are going to sew this pretty side to pretty side, right? And you might think, okay, I need this here. And you can do this to help you with the visual. This is pretty side up, pretty side up, pretty side up. This I know is going to be inserted here. But how do I need to line it up in order to get it to be sewn in correctly? If this is pretty side up and so is this, we know that we flip one on top of the other so that they are pretty sides touching. And if you look at the top of my sleeve cap here, I have a little notch that I cut out, and you're going to line that up with the shoulder seam here. All right. Thanks, Trisha, for the super chat. That's sweet of you. Thank you. All right, so now I'm going to match up that notch there. And again, with the ballpoint pins. All right. And again, this is going to take a little bit of finagling because it is so lightweight and drapey. And so then if I know that the center matches up here, I know that whatever I need to do in order to get this to match up, I need to do it. The sleeve cap has a notch here, and I know that that notch needs to match up with that notch. Okay, so basically this half of the sleeve needs to be sewn to here. And then this half of the sleeve needs to be sewn to here. So it's helpful, instead of getting carried away with how things look like, I don't understand how this is going to happen, to think about it in terms of, we know we need to sew the right sides together, right? Pretty sides touching, like I always say. And then I know my notches need to match, so just take it kind of one step at a time. And feel free to move that sleeve over like that to get it to go where you need it to. Yes.
Stay tape or elastic to keep shape?
I don't on this. I mean, this is just kind of like a farm chore work shirt for my husband, so I'm not using stay tape on this. If I was making myself a top out of, say, like a rayon jersey, which can be really, really lightweight, similar to this fabric, sometimes I will use a stay tape on the neckline, in the sleeves, in the hem. But for this kind of a project, I don't find that it's necessary. They're going to tear these shirts up in a minute. But no, I'm not adding anything to this. This is just kind of a drapey shirt for him to just keep the mosquitoes slightly off. which is wild to me that the mosquitoes stay off of him when he's wearing long sleeve shirts because they bite me through jeans. So either way, he needs some long sleeve shirts. So this is what we're working on here. So because this is cut on the curve and the fabric is so light and it stretches, be mindful that you'll have like, sometimes you'll see that it's like a little bit bigger or smaller. I'm just holding it roughly where it needs to be. And when I get to sewing it, as I approach this, I'll kind of even things out. Okay. And then I'm going to keep swinging this around a little bit just to bring that end right where it needs to be. And you can see that it really, what's slowing me down here is the fabric more than anything. Because if this was a more stable knit, whew, I'd probably be done already. Okay, then that's one half. Now we got to come around here and grab this one half. Again, and take it in segments. We know we did everything correctly there. Now try to forget about it. So you can now focus on the other half of the sleeve cap and say, okay, find my notches, place my pins. And when it's lightweight fabrics, here's another tip. Instead of picking up and laying down and picking up and laying down, you see the fabric is rolling on me. I will place it close, and then just with my fingernails, I kind of either scratch back or scratch forward to create kind of slight friction between the fabric layers, and you can see easily I can get it to match up perfectly without having to be like draping up, draping down, draping up, draping down, because you do that 5 times and it still doesn't match, and you're going to be cursing out loud like I do sometimes. But those are some tips for y'all. So just place it kind of where you want it to start working from, and watch. If I just scratch, oops, now that I got caught on my nail. So if I just kind of scratch and just do straight edge, you know, keep it from unrolling, and as I bump it up to where it needs to be matched up, I'll just place a pin. And I'm kind of doing this upside down for the camera, but you get the idea. For the camera, and because I don't want to flip this whole thing over, then everything's going to be drapey and out of shape and out of place. Fun things about working with drapey fabric. But it's worth it, I think, especially if you're in a hot climate. Because I think he is going to... I'll keep y'all posted on this shirt. We'll see how long it lasts before it has holes in it. Okay. And then we're coming across here. And I'll just place a couple more pins. I'm not too worried about these little drapey, I mean, look at this. It's super drapey. So you're going to have lines and ripples everywhere. I don't care about that. That has to do with the weight of the fabric. What I do care about is right where I'm going to be stitching that I don't have any ripples or puckers or pleats or anything. The rest of that stuff can bubble all it wants to, because on the body it's not going to be like that. It's just because the fabric is pooling on the table. But the key is to make sure it's flat right where the needle on the sewing machine goes through it, because that's going to be, you know, the actual stitch line. All right. Okay, let me check in here. Donna says, LOL, we need to see the hubby in the shirt when finished. Absolutely. We will do that. Let me pop in over here to Facebook real quick just to see what my buddies on Facebook are saying. Do we have people there watching? Awesome. Dawn says the mosquitoes bite her through her clothes too. Girl, yes. O positive. Supposedly they like O blood. Sandy says you're slow. You slow. Yes. The drapey lightweight fabrics slow me down, and because then I get anxious and then I get frustrated and then I scream and then I walk away and then I come back. So y'all are helping me with this today because I'm doing it live on camera and I can't be my usual wild self. Okay, what am I doing here? Let's see. All right, so let me grab this. And let me bring my machine over. And you can see, I just picked it up and dropped it, and I'm already dreading it. Like, oh, now I got to refix everything because it's so light. So my tip to you, even if you have made some stretch knit garments before, you can see before you jump into this world, you might want to make a few more garments. You know, just, I don't want people to think that it's them, that they can't sew stretch knits, because not all stretch knits are created equally. This is especially special, y'all. All right, let me get my little thingy here. Try not to knock over the tripod. Foot pedal on the floor. I'm trying to get more of this in, but then I can't stand in front of it, y'all. This is a whole production. Okay, is that right? Yes. All right. So I have a pin right at the beginning there. I'm going to just take a few stitches in and stop. get rid of that pin. I do not want to sew over my pins. And then I'm going to press this button to make sure the machine stops with the needle down as I stitch this sleeve in place. And so now I'm just looking to see that right as I approach or feed fabric through to the presser foot, it's flat. I don't want it to be bubbled up like this, because if you stitch over a bubble like that in the fabric, you're going to get a pucker and it's going to be sewn in because you stitch over it. So be mindful of that. Stitch every couple inches and just stop and check. Okay. And you know, this is actually another tip. If you are tackling lightweight knits like this, and say the pattern calls for a 1/4 inch seam, if you want to do it on your sewing machine, I would recommend that you make it so it's bigger, like looser on the body that you're making it for. And that way you kind of will ease the pressure off of yourself, thinking, you know, if it's cut exactly to the right size and by mistake you sew a seam allowance that's slightly bigger, then you're going to be worried about whether it's going to fit too small. So make something that's a little bit loose. I mean, it could be a night shirt, you know, a loose t-shirt for a kid, a bathing suit cover up, something like that. And that it will definitely be good practice, and you'll still end up with a salvageable garment even if you mess up. The key is to get in there and try it. And I can see now, look, if I remove this pin, I can see under here the fabric is bubbling up. I cannot sew straight. I'm gonna, grab way more layers of fabric than I need to. So you need to stop, readjust, okay? Double check under here that you're only grabbing the 2 layers of fabric that you should be grabbing, and stop again. Y'all, I am so impressed by this sewing machine. This is ridiculous. We did pick some up last week, so we will be selling these shortly on our website. I'm working on the video review for this machine, but OMG, beginner sewing machine with like capabilities of a way more expensive machine. You're looking at it right here before your very eyes on a tissue knit that I'm actually sewing it up on here. This is wild. I've had over 45 different sewing machines over the years, and let me tell you, I always love testing another one. All right. So again, sometimes this helps too because the fabric will roll away from you. I'm like grabbing them and just going like this in between my fingers to bring those raw edges slightly more perfectly to match. You know, if they're close, it's okay, but you know, I like to have it be a little bit closer to perfect is my preference. Oh, we're getting there, almost to the other side. Is this the first sleeve, y'all? Have I sewn 2 sleeves? Amazing how slow I stitch when I chat and work with lighter fabrics. I cannot believe this is the only sleeve I've done. Okay. Move my pin. Now I'm coming up on the end here. And again, because it's this kind of narrow zigzag, I'm not even going to bother to backstitch. Also because this is like the underarm seam, and when we sew down the sides of the sleeves and the side of the shirt, we're going to come across it, intersecting it with a perpendicular seam. So there's no need to backstitch here. Okay. All right. Let me see that. Whoop, forgot to trim this little bit off. And there went a pin that was stuck to my snips. All right. So now let's open it up so I can show you what Carla had said about putting in the sleeves in flat or in the round. Let's have a look so you can kind of orient yourself again. This is the neck hole, okay? Shoulder seam, which is the first thing we sewed. And here, magically, we have a sleeve. All right, so it's like wild to me how quick and easy t-shirts come together, because if I pick this up here and I fold it along where the sleeve is going to be, look at that. You practically have a shirt made. There's the shoulder, there's the sleeve. So the next step would be to do the same thing on the opposite side. And I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll stitch it down the sides. And I think that will be enough, because that way we'll at least show you the shape of the shirt. So let me see how long it's going to take me. Pretty side to pretty side. So this is the armhole here. Grab my sleeve. This fabric is ridiculously drapey, y'all. So remember I said, just have patience and go slow. So I'm going to do this here. Pin that top notch to the center. or the shoulder seam. And I always start off there. Like if you have guides, if you have reference points, if you have notches, pin there first, because you know, no matter what happens in the sewing, those spots need to match up, okay? So you might as well pin first to help you out. So I'm gonna come this way. Oh, this drapey fabric. I might steal this shirt. I'll have to use it again. Y'all are about to see a lot of this fabric, I think, because I still have some for me too. And again, it's one of those things. It feels amazing on the body, but is a nightmare to work with. Oh, and I didn't cut the notch on this end of it. I see it didn't show up. All right, that's okay. You can just finish pinning this edge. Do we have any specific questions? So the pattern, if you're just tuning in, this is Jali 2918. We have it for sale in the online shop. It's in stock right now. It comes with two different necklines, a crew neckline, which is the one I'm doing here on this t-shirt for my husband, a V-neck. It comes with short sleeve option, long sleeve, which is the one I'm doing, and then this kind of both. It's like a short sleeve and a long sleeve option that makes it look like you're wearing a shirt underneath. Go ahead. What's the question? No, you don't need to use, the question is, do you need to use a walking foot with the fabric? I'm not using a walking foot, but I have found over the years and all the different Juki models that I have that I don't need a walking foot to sew through stretch knits and all that stuff. And granted, I've usually used machines that, you know, are more higher end than this machine, but as you can see, this is about a $350 sewing machine. And I'm having no problem with the regular universal foot on it sewing. However, I have had other sewing machines in previous years and sewn through fabric like this, and I had to install the walking foot. So again, every machine company, every machine make and model, they're made in different places. They will vary. So I suggest grabbing a scrap piece of fabric, trying it on your sewing machine, adjust some settings like I showed you earlier, the stitch length, the stitch width, all that kind of stuff. And if you still can't do it with the correct needle, of course, the ballpoint jersey needle, and if you still can't get it to stitch well, then I would, you know, next step would be put on the walking foot and see if that makes it any better. Okay? And I feel y'all, a lot of people, you know, most of the questions we get as beginners, it's like we think they're black and white answers to things. And I'm very much a math person, so I love me some black and white answers. Here's the right answer, here's the wrong answer. Nice and simple. I don't do good with gray area stuff. So unfortunately here for sewing stuff, because there are so many different types of machines and the way that they're made and the needle that you're using in combination with the thread, the fabric, all that stuff comes into play. There's no other way around it. You know, you can just try it and make adjustments to see what works. And if you still can't get it to work, you know, and you plan to sew a lot of lightweight knits, you know, then you probably are going to be best off to invest in, you know, a serger or another machine that you know will do well with that kind of fabric, because otherwise it'll be horrible to be frustrated if that's the fabric that you're using most of the time. All right. Susan says, I taught her to sew. That's awesome, Susan. I'm so glad to hear that. I hope you're still sewing. Okay, let's see. Hey, Terry, she says she's loving what I'm sewing. Awesome. Thank you all for tuning in. If you have any specific questions, especially about what I'm working on, go ahead and include them in the chat box below. I'm going to pop over to YouTube real quick, show my face. Let's see if there's any specific things. Brenda says, I just purchased a Juki 2010 about a month ago, and oh, that's Jen that says that. She says she just purchased a Juki 2010, which is the one I have back here. I got it back. It's serviced and ready to go. And she says she had never heard of Juki until she started following me. That's awesome. I love my Juki machines. You know, I get them all from So Many Things in Mount Dora, Florida. I had another friend tell me today that she also picked up a machine from the guys at So Many Things. What do you want to see which model it is? So for those of you that are wondering what model it is, here's the super cute front of it. It's the LB5020 sewing machine. And we did purchase some of these, so we will be listing them in our online shop soon. So we'll have just a limited supply of them to ship out. Once I post a video review of this on my YouTube channel, I love it. I mean, you all know that we recently got this machine so that I can have it on the table here for WIP Wednesdays, my flash sale Fridays. It's just lighter weight, and I don't have to have my back to y'all if we're using, you know, one of the machines I have set up in the table. But, I mean, a great travel machine. As you can see, I have other machines I can use, of course, but this is a great little lightweight one. All right. Tony says, this is a great visual for my eyes. Thank you, Vanessa. You've given me confidence to attack my dress with sleeves. Absolutely. If you're sewing with, and you can see, I put in the sleeves in the flat on this with this super lightweight knit. I especially like to put in sleeves flat too when I'm working with double knits, like more stable knits like a Bullet or a Liverpool or, you know, something a little bit, because the fabric doesn't even like flop around like this does. It's so quick and easy. I usually can make sure it's like that in 20 or 30 minutes. All right. Linda says, I got my sewing mojo back when I started watching this video. I love it. Awesome, Linda. Glad to hear it. All right. So let's see. I'm going to, next sleeve is pinned. Oh my gosh, this is like the slowest I've ever sewn a t-shirt, y'all. I talk fast, I move fast, I sew fast. But I need to slow down too because I ain't not trying to sew my fingers live on camera. Not that that's ever happened, but anyways. Okay, I have not changed. Actually, you know what? Let me take a picture of these settings real quick because I don't usually do this. I do recommend it. Done. But I know when I go back, especially since I have more of this fabric, whatever I sew with it, I know that I'm going to want to set up these settings again. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab our little bitty leader. We're going to start sewing on here. And let's stitch this next sleeve in place. And then I'm going to stitch down. So as you can see, we're putting in the sleeves, or sorry, if you show them my face, then the other shot, I'm here like standing like this, like a little scarecrow, and y'all can't even see me yet. I'm like, so once we put in the sleeves flat, it's going to be basically like an open big T. Then we fold everything in half and we end up sewing here and here and here and here. And then you basically have a t-shirt. All you have left to do is like hem the sleeves if you want to, because you know some knits don't, well, most knits don't unravel or fray on you. So if you're really in a hurry or it's really, really going to be a farm shirt, I can just leave it unhemmed. He won't even notice. And then you just have to attach the neckband and then hem the bottom if you want to. You don't have to. We've seen ready to wear clothes that are sold in the store that are unhemmed. Okay? So don't feel some kind of way if you don't hem your knits. It's okay. All right, so I'm gonna stitch this sleeve up. Oh, this is a good shot. Baba! And I just unplugged it. But anyways, Juki LB5020. This is the little model. And it does have some decorative stitches. I mean, it's a simple, basic machine, but it is computerized. And it does have some decorative stitch options, okay? Let me plug this baby back up. And I'm glad I just took the picture of those settings, y'all, because now I'm gonna have to set it back up. You see? It's like I felt that. Let me see what it was. Okay. All right, we have 07. Still stitch number 7. And then scoot over. Stitch width is 1.5 down. And next one over is 2.5. Perfect. All right. Now we're in business. See, that was a lot quicker than me trying to guesstimate and play around. So I'm not the most organized person. But little tips like that do help. All right, the leader's in, we're starting. I'm only sewing where I pinned. Oop, needle down, but I can see everything's rolling. So I stop with the needle down so then I can come in here, adjust what I'm working on. Y'all, this is a great project. Simple t-shirt. Now, some of you may want to be making like different style t-shirts. I know not all guys like this crew neckline or the set-in sleeves. There is another pattern called the Jali Nico, and that's that raglan sleeve. I did a 4-part free video series on my YouTube channel for the baseball style type of shirt. And if you can show them, do you have that pulled up there? I just want people to see the visual of the difference between a regular like set-in sleeve t-shirt, the Nico. So we're going to get B to put it up on the screen just so you all can see. So you see the style of that where the sleeves are not set in. It's like the top part of the shoulder is part of the front and then the back part of the shoulder is part of the back. So some guys have really broad shoulders. My husband likes that style of t-shirt as well. And that's why I knew to make this one that I'm working on, I picked I think 1 or 2 sizes bigger than his usual size so that he had more room in it. So if you have a guy that has really broad shoulders and they're kind of buff, they may want more room in there. That might be something for you to check out as well. And you can watch those free videos on my YouTube channel. And we do have that pattern in stock. I don't think we have too many of those. This thread got caught back here from the leader. Get it out of my way. There. And so that's another t-shirt pattern. So if you're looking for gifts for the guys, garments and stuff, my son makes these shirts too. He's made the raglan one. That one's even easier. I mean, I would say kind of the same. Because if you're setting in the sleeve flat like we did here, it's going to be about the same as the raglan because they're done like that, you know. But sometimes people are led to believe that they always have to put them in the round. That's a lie. Especially if you're just starting off. Don't set yourself up for, you know, puckers on the back of a sleeve or something. Just sew it flat. Okay. And I'm just making sure that I'm grabbing both layers. Nothing is slipping out on me. I'm trying to get through this sleeve. Because I do want to stitch up the sides and show y'all the body of the shirt, you know, basically almost done. Okay. It's wild. Like, when I picked this fabric, I was like, ugh. I picked it because it's lightweight, and that's what my husband asked for. And the more I work with it, as I see myself getting closer and closer to completing the project, the more I'm like, oh, I really like this fabric, which is so wild. To go from like, I hate this, it's so drapey to work with. But then when you get closer to the end, you're like, oh, I love it. It's all a mental game. All right, almost to the end of this sleeve cap. And you can see, I think if patterns are really well drafted, the sleeve cap will match up really closely. I think the basic difference is maybe 1.5 inch or so difference in the sleeve cap. So sometimes those are like the easiest ones to sew in, even in the round. Okay, when it stretches, I mean, you can pull the fabric a little bit more or pull it a little bit less to make it fit. So this is super easy to do it flat like this. But you got to check the patterns too. If you all have my curve runner, that's something that I use to measure and compare the arm's eye and the sleeve cap. And I have pulled some patterns like by the, you know, like the typical big 4 companies that you'll buy the patterns at, like a Joann's or something. And I have measured them, and the difference was like 3.5 inches. I literally stop right there with the project and just dump it because there's no way that I'll be able to ease 3.5 inch difference on a woven fabric. So, and I'm an experienced seamstress, you know what I mean? So these are things that I'm trying to set you up for success because I know that you will tackle these kinds of things, and then I don't like for my students to think that it was them, you know? Oh, I can't do it. It's like, hello, it's a 3.5 inch difference. Nobody was gonna do that on a fabric that doesn't stretch. That's wild. And so sometimes I try patterns like that and I'm like, are you seriously thinking anybody would tackle this? It's insane. But okay, stretch knits are great for doing that. All right, so now, oh my gosh, this is like, are you even gonna wear this outside? This is see-through, guy. Look at him, he's loving it. The more he sees it, the better he likes it. All right, so here's the shirt, okay? So as you can see, it's already folded to show the neckline the way that it would look. And if I peek over here, underarm, underarm, because the sleeve is folded in half. All we need to do now is stitch down this sleeve, down the side, down the sleeve, down the side. But of course you want to do it pretty sides touching, right? So it's basically like we're flipping the shirt inside out. And you know, this is for my husband. So I'm doing it on a sewing machine. You don't have to have a serger to do something like this. Some people would say, oh, well, the seams don't look that cute. You know, they're raw. This is so lightweight. There's absolutely no weight or anything that's going to rub on his body or anything. The fabric is so light. Plus, it doesn't fray or unravel. You know what I mean? And since this is going to be like work shirts for outside, I'm going to save myself the time and not have to worry about, you know, finishing off fancy seams and stuff. And this is, I think, these types of projects are great for beginners to tackle garment sewing. Because once, I promise you, once you make a t-shirt, you're going to be running around. You're not going to know how to act. You're going to be like, check out this t-shirt I made. I'm going to make all the t-shirts. And that's just, you know, what happens when you have a successful make. Yes.
Would the raglan t-shirt be a similar female version of this, or is there a similar?
So the similar version of this, I think, is going to be my next class, like the jean PJ pattern, because there is a Jali 3245 that I did a course on. It's a raglan t-shirt for women, but the shaping is totally different. If you're someone who likes more kind of like this boxier, like more unisex look that's not really rounded or more fitted to the body like you would expect, like on a female body is typically how they design for, you might be able to get away with this. You know, like this basic crew neck. But keep in mind that because it was designed for boys and men, the shoulders are different. You know, it doesn't have like the slopier shoulders that most women's patterns will have, like for what they guesstimate to be, right? A woman's, more likely to be like a woman's body. So there is a raglan t-shirt, but it has like a scoop neckline, a rounded hem. It's like a dressier version of a raglan. And and I do have an online course for that, but it's not really similar to the Nico, you know, to that type of a raglan, because that definitely has a more broad shouldery silhouette to it. Okay. Okay. So that's one sleeve. And I'm not going to bother to pin the rest of this, y'all, because I normally would not. Once I hit this intersection here, I know, and I can already see I'm coming up on this. My notches look good to match. I haven't really been off in anything else, so I know that it'll be okay. I won't really have to be struggling to kind of match anything up. So let's see how fast, let me not say that. Let's just get to work stitching this up. I'm cutting off some of those tail ends of the little leader, and then we're gonna get started on here. Ooh, I can't wait. Let me show y'all this almost done. And you can, I mean, this is unheard of. Some of you out there are probably like, I need that little machine. There's no way, because some of you, I mean, there's machines that cost $5,000 or $8,000 and they can't do this. You know, without needing any kind of specialty foot or adjusting the settings or whatever. This is just like right out the gate. And again, I'm using a bigger needle than I normally would, so I couldn't find my 70-10 jersey, ballpoint jersey needles. So again, this is an 80-12. And normally I tell people, like sometimes my students will say, well, can I use a stretch stitch? And remember we talked about a stretch stitch being like a lightning bolt stitch. You can, but because it's a narrow stitch and also short stitch, it takes forever to stitch up seams because it's so tight. For this fabric, because it's so lightweight and stretchy, I said to lengthen the zigzag a little bit. So because we lengthened it to 2.5 millimeters this way, and it's 1.5 this way in width, it's stitching almost as if it was a straight stitch. So it's going a lot faster than if I had a true stretch stitch or lightning stitch here. So play around. If you have a machine that can do zigzag, if you can adjust stitch width and stitch length, play around with it to get the right settings on your machine, and of course to save yourself some time, because sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not doing zigzag. I'm gonna be here forever stitching these seams. But this one is a compromise. It's like the best of both worlds. All right, this is moving a little bit on me. Let me scoot the fabric over. So again, I'm just kind of like rubbing it in my hands just to get those raw edges to match up. All right, and then because I'm coming up on the seam where my pin is, I know those points are going to be on point. Let me send one seam allowance one way and one the other. I do this mostly to reduce bulk, not that there is much bulk with this super lightweight fabric, but it's kind of habit at this point. And then always remember, wherever your needle's coming down, you want to make sure it's straight, like it's smooth. It's just the 2 layers. I don't have anything else down there. Because that's one thing you don't want to have to pull out is any type of zigzag stitch. All right. Let me know in the comments if you have ever worked with tissue knit fabric before, like such lightweight sheer fabric before. And if you have, let me know your experience. What'd you make? What'd you use it for? Would you never tackle it again? Or maybe after watching me do this demo today, you're going to take some of these tips that I've mentioned and give it another go. So let me know in the comments. Have you ever tried sewing with tissue jersey, tissue knits before? Nice lightweight sheer. Oh my gosh, I almost had a freak out moment. I was like, wait, did I sew these pretty sides touching? But I did. It's so lightweight that it looks, I mean, it could probably go for both sides, but the little black heathered lines do show up a little bit more on the pretty side. Whew, even if it would have messed it up, I would have left it because he would have never known. And I'm talking about him like he's not in the room, but it's true, right? He probably would have never known. Okay, we're coming down one side. You see, that's not too bad. Look at that, and it matches perfect at the hem, girl. Yes. Oh, such satisfying moments in sewing. This is what we look at that. Look at that. It's perfect. Oh my word. Beautiful, beautiful. There's my snips. Okay. So that's one side, and you can see I still have some give. Even though I mentioned this fabric doesn't have that much vertical stretch, it still has some give. My stitches are not popping because I did a zigzag. And then the other direction, they're not going to pop at all, okay? Whew, other side. And then I'm going to flip it right side out and show y'all. Okay. So remember, this is Jali 2918. For those of you that are just tuning in, it's a men's long sleeve shirt. It comes in 27 different sizes. So my son makes this shirt too, but I'm working on a couple here for my husband. I'm using the exact same pattern. And for those of you that know my husband, like what he looks like in his build, just to give you kind of a reference point, I cut out the size Y for him, which is bigger, you know, so he has some wiggle room in there. And I'll let you in on a little secret. If you don't pre-wash the fabric, make it like a size bigger. Or cut it a little bit longer because the cotton spandex fabric tends to shrink just in the lengthwise. So I just made it a little bit airier for him, you know, a little bigger around all sides and a little bit longer just because some of this, I used up 2 scraps for this t-shirt. Some of the fabric was pre-washed and some wasn't. Don't judge. Okay. I just needed to get it done. And so I'm working here with a super, super lightweight jersey knit. I'm going to put a pin right there because that notch is calling out to me. And it is perfectly aligned. So I'll start again on the end of the other sleeve. And I'm just going to stitch down the side and then let's see what we got. Seriously, this is the longest time it's ever taken me to make a shirt. But I'm glad that some of you are getting your sojo back. Watching this demo is hopefully inspiring you to tackle some of these stretch knits. If you've been hearing me mention that my next online sewing course is going to be a pajama class, maybe this is going to inspire you to join us for that class. Where's my little leader? I don't know, so I'm just gonna grab another little bitty scrap and stitch on this. We have a lot of fun sewing in these classes, and if you're looking for this pattern, we have it in the online shop. You can always find our stuff at craftygemini.com/shop. We'll include links also. He's already been including them in the chat box, whether you're watching it on Facebook or YouTube. Remember, give this video a thumbs up if you're enjoying these WIP Wednesdays. Let your friends know. Share the videos. That definitely helps us and we appreciate it. And if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel and you're catching me live, click the subscribe button and the little bell icon so you'll be notified every time we go live or post a new video. All right. Ooh, where'd that pin go? Hopefully it's out of the way. I don't want to sew over it. Yeah, it's gone. All right, this is more my speed. And so you can see I have my machine set to the fastest setting here and I'm flooring it. So for those of you that don't like super, super fast machines, keep in mind that this machine is also not that fast. It's not, I don't even think it's 800 stitches a minute. But it's a good speed still, you know? Even me who likes really fast machines. For something like this where it's a little bit fidgety and I have to make sure of what I'm doing every couple inches, it gives me time to kind of catch up. Okay, we're almost there. Wow, we've been on long today, huh? Let me push this seam allowance back. But I want to show it. I want to show this. And then I'll post a picture later once I do the neckband and press everything nicely and hem it. All right. Come on, come on. There. I want to see if very many people have tried the tissue knits. Did anybody say they had? Oh. Oh, that's cute. Yeah, they work out good for like little lightweight robes, cardigans. Oop, I almost let the fabric slip. This is what happens when I don't put pins and I'm not paying attention. Let's get it back on track there. Grab it here. All right, coming down. Home stretch. Ooh, and that one matches perfect too. Okay, I'm down to the last bitty stitch. Let's go ahead and move this out the way. My pin, turn this off. cut this little leader thing off. All right, so look, we have a shirt. I'm gonna flip the, oh, there was the leader I was looking for. I never cut it off the first sleeve. Okay, let's flip this baby right side. I'm gonna lay it on the table, and then we'll give them the other camera view so I can hold it up. I'm trying not to distort the neckline because remember, that's cut round and it stretches, and I tend to be a little bit rough with things, so I'm trying not to. So grab it on seams where it's a little bit more stable, but look at that. Oh, yeah, that's cute, huh, Brennan? It's nice and lightweight, so I just have to add the neckline, hem the sleeves, and hem the bottom. All right, so let's switch to the other shot. So check it out, check it out. That'd be cute. He has long arms and a long torso. So what I do for his shirts, both on the Nico and on this Jali 2918, both patterns, I lengthen them by about like 1 3/4 to 2 inches. It kind of depends based on what size hem I end up doing at the bottom. I believe the pattern calls for a 3/4 inch hem. But you can adjust that, right? So like say you have them put it on and they see that it's just the right height or just the right length, excuse me, then just hem it like a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch or whatever you want. You know, if it's a little bit too long, you can hack some off the bottom or do like I do and just hem it like 1 inch or like 1.5 inches, whatever it is. Okay, so you can play with that, but look how sheer it is. He's really gonna like this shirt, I think. But I will finish it up today, post a picture or have him put it on and then post a picture of it. But that is how easy it is to whip up this Jali 2918 men's t-shirt pattern, and I'll show it to you in a more stable knit because I think you can see how drapey that fabric was. This is in a cotton spandex. So he said this was heavyweight, but it's more like a midweight, you know. Since you can't get away with leggings and like bottoms, it still has a good body to it, but a lot of stretch. All right, so thank you everybody for joining me for WIP Wednesday. Let me check in real quick right here. Make sure. All right. Woo, my goodness. Big chat. Big chat. Audrey says her lunch is almost over. Back to work. Bye, Audrey. Thanks for tuning in. Brenda says I usually avoid any thin knits. She may just give them a try. And that's the key thing is just try to, first you got to experiment, right? Based on the machine that you have. But also it's more about making sure that all the different factors that come into play with making that work and getting successful results are in position. You can't just turn on the machine and say, okay, I'm gonna sew this tissue knit. You gotta know what stitch, thread, what needle, what settings for your machine, whether or not you need that walking foot. Every make and model is gonna be different. So if you have shied away from tissue knits before, give them a go. Play around with some of the tips that I shared with you here today and then post pictures so I can see what you are out there making. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Remember to tune back on Friday. This Friday, what, October 16th? At 7 p.m. Eastern, we will be here with an awesome Flash Sale Friday. So we'll see you then and enjoy the rest of your week. Bye. For your machine, whether or not you need that walking foot, every make and model is going to be different. So if you have away